Alright, time for another DraftScience video presentation. So we'll do an experiment of sorts. We'll augment an experiment. We'll show more information in the experiment, whatever. One just demonstrating what's been already established, I think, beyond reasonable doubt. But we'll just establish it more securely. And the real question is what kind of evidence do you need? I mean, do I really have to take an object like a 10-ton train? I don't, 5-pound train going, 10 miles an hour and a 10-pound train going 5 miles an hour and prove to you they produce the same energy. I mean, it would be like me proving to you I use the same energy to throw something into gravity. I throw a lighter thing, something that weighs half as much, and I throw it into gravity. Yeah, it goes 4 times higher. But when both of them come down, the full weight object and the half weight object, they're both going to make the same kind of impact on the ground. They're both going to hit the ground with the same force. I mean, you can't really believe otherwise, can you? I mean, can you? So what do I need as proof is the more interesting question. So, I've been offered the opportunity for you to, for someone to harass these naysayers with more thought experiments, more questions. But the only question that matters is what evidence is enough evidence. I frankly am stunned that there is such a high resistance to accepting the simple truth. I've shown you the horrible history. The formula doesn't have any real merit. It is all gobbledygook. And it just doesn't make any sense. You've got to understand that momentum, mass, having a velocity, is what makes energy in the universe. It's just about how heavy you are and how fast are you going. And even when they talk about photons not having a mass, you sort of know they must have a mass or they couldn't move anything. Come on, you just can't be this stupid. I know you're not this stupid. So you're being this belligerent for some other reason. Like you just won't accept that physics could make some really dumb mistakes. And they're really dumb mistakes, frankly. Yeah, and you don't want to accept the liability of that, which is maybe a lot of what they say is suspect. And that's what you're really running from, right? But anyway, all right, so we'll do this experiment. It'll show basically that, as I stated, you can't divide up the momentum into energy. You can't say, I'm going to give this 3/4 of the energy and this only 1/4 of the energy or some other kind of crap. In most of these circumstances, the fact is the energy goes this way and the energy goes that way, because that's essentially the nature of energy, is it's not produced in a direction. It's about you isolating it to a direction. When you try to force it to go one way, you end up having to accept the liability of that, which is you have to accept all the stuff going the other way. So if I try to redirect something to go this way, I'm accepting the fact that I'm now going to accept the liability of the extra stuff going this way, because the universe is essentially made of an equilibrium. And if you break the equilibrium, you have to break it by actually filtering it, which means, you have to accept this way if you're going to just give away that way. Well, anyway, I've been through it so many times. So anyway, this experiment demonstrates basically you can't get around it. Momentum wins. There's no sign of any kinetic energy here anywhere. It's not visible. All right, so I can actually draw lines here. So I'll draw the line. Now you should be able to see them. And well, that one's a little tiny bit short, but we'll understand. We have to, we'll fix that later. All right. So these are two equal objects. So what we should get is a bunch of equal lines. Yes. So this one is going to be kind of obvious. So I'll try to go fast. Try to get through it. Oh, come on! Don't tell me it's going. Okay. There is a point where the software fails doing frames at a second. Frames. Okay, so that's where at the end of the line, so that's where I stopped. All right, so this one's a little bit off because, remember I drew the line a little bit ahead. So we'll just ignore that and draw new lines. And then that one's a little bit off, but it's okay. No, that one's right on the money this time. All right, and we go ahead And we'll see it works out pretty good. They're both doing the same thing velocity wise. I'm dead even now, so draw another set of lines for no real reason because this is obvious, but somehow it's not to too many of you. Alright, and we get a collision in the dead center. Almost, look at that, just almost perfect, right? Okay, just the right amount of space. So we got a little bit tailing off here, but that's it. So okay, got it. So I'll move on to the next one. Alright, so he's changed this perspective a little, which is sort of annoying, but we have to accept that. Alright, so we can draw our lines again. And the angle's a little bit different. Alright, it's a little bit short of being just right, but whatever. Okay, now this object on the right hand side is twice as heavy. So we frame our way to the end of the board. There we go. Alright, and you can see, well, it's half from this perspective. So from the point I drew the line, you can see it's just about half for a full board here. So we'll do it again, and you'll see when this one goes 2 boards, the other one's going to go a full board. So we'll put a line there. We'll put a little line over here. It's not really going to be in the right place, but that's okay. And continue. So now we want to go another full board. And that would be there. Yeah. Alright, so now, it looks kind of ugly. So this is the original line. It still hasn't gotten to the end of the board. So again, this one just has a bad angle, unfortunately. So we'll just put, but technically it has reached this line. You can see the bottom corner of the wood has reached the line. The halfway mark just hit the halfway mark, right? The last mark I made from here to here mark, you can see it's right on the peg. So if we go by the base of the wood, we're right where we should be. Okay, so technically correct. And then we can do another one here and here. Alright. And we should get another 2 full boards worth. Okay, there's that one. And so again, half and the base. So it is working. It's coming up with the same solution. This one's going exactly half as fast. And this last one. So, and this one is covered, half the distance of this one. Exactly half the velocity. And the collision should be right there. So we're right at the same point again. And you can see for yourself, half, 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 half. These are half spaced compared to these lines. It's half the velocity, blah, blah, blah. Alright, on to the next one. Now we're going to put 3 blocks on. So now it's going to take 3 of these lines. It's going to be 1/3 the velocity. Alright, so we make a line. And a line. Okay, both a tiny bit short, you could argue, but pretty close. Close enough. Alright, so now you can see it's moving 1/3. So I have to get to the front of that. Yeah, the back gets past the front, so that's the right spot. So it's 1/3 of the block now will be in each section. So that's about right, 1/3 of the block. So we'll mark this nice little straight line here, a nice little straight line here. Uh-oh, what went wrong? There it goes. Alright, and continuing. So another block's worth. Whoops, went a little past, but it's close enough. So now I'm 2/3 of the wooden block. So it's all working out just the way it should. Completely consistent with the big block is now moving 1/3 the velocity of the smaller, lighter block. Exactly 1/3. So it should get right to the end of the block now. Should get to that first line. And it does, right to the corner of the block. So we have successfully accomplished the task again of it demonstrating that it's 1/3 the velocity. So we can put another line here, but I don't think it'll tell us much. Well, that one, I could probably fix that a little bit, but I don't know. Close enough. And we'll end up with a collision pretty close to. Okay, so there's your indication again that these lines are spaced 1/3 the difference of these spacing of these lines. So 1/3 the area of this area. This length is 1/3 of this length. This length is 1/3 of that length. Okay, demonstrated, shown, blah 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 blah. Alright, so this is the 4 now. That should work. Okay, so we'll get a line. This one looks like it's a little better angle. So it should, so now we're 1/4. So technically that block probably won't even, the 4 block won't even make it a full block length. It's going so much slower. Whoa, I went way past. Yeah, what the hell was that? What are you thinking, Gary? My bad. Okay, do that over. Just, got lost in the moment or something. Clicky click. Alright, that looks, the front of the line is the front edge. That's close enough. Alright, so you can't really tell, but yeah, we're not very far advanced, that's for sure. Haven't gotten very far. So, a small line there. Same deviations here. A little bit over, but it's a little under on the other one, so it's about equaled out. Zoom, 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 zoom. There we go. Alright, you can see, yeah, we're getting there, but it's really slow. We're going to be 1/4. Okay, it's not perfect. I've got that one a little bit too far, but I can't erase individual lines, so we'll go with it. It's close enough. Oh, I forgot this one. Here. Okay, I'm a little into the stuff, so we know we have to go a little past the back edge. That's about right, past the back edge. Alright, so we draw our lines again. Clearly demonstrating again that this one's velocity is always the same. It's always the same, We go further distance, the distance this one's not going, and that's all we change is how much distance the small block goes, and the velocity is completely consistent with momentum controlling. Okay, that's the line. This block has now moved sideways a little, which is too bad, but it'll try to be fair, something like that. And the last one, and we still haven't, crossed our first line yet. Oh, I didn't put a line there, did I? Whoops. Alright, let's go back. We should be able to do that without too much trouble. Well, I don't want to go that far back. Okay. Alright, I want to go to the end of this block. There we go. Alright, so I got to draw this line. And there we go. And we'll finish it off. That's as close as you can get, and this is going a little crooked on us, but I'll try to be, it's not going to be a straight line, but it's got a little crooked. But you can see, frankly, consistent. The outcome is pretty much what you'd expect. Blah blah blah. Again, this block hasn't quite finished. moving the distance, and that might be more to do with the fact that it's really getting heavy now and it can't overcome the friction with the surface. So now friction's becoming a problem for the heavier object, and that's probably skewed these results a little bit. But it's certainly not in favor of their theory, which is the heavier object has more momentum, when of course it doesn't. And certainly not displaying it in terms of its velocity. It's not going faster than it should be. It's going a little slower. But anyway, you get the idea. So these results are pretty much, in my opinion, undeniable by a reasonable person. They get the idea. You got the same momentum on one side, same momentum on the other side. It doesn't matter how much weight I put on one side. It's still the same momentum. I can't make more momentum on one side by changing the other side, blah, 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 blah. So, yeah. Yeah, I don't think there's anything that needs to be said. The change in, like I said, I guess I could also do, we could measure the total change in the distance per how big these little one block movements are, how many of them you get, and also prove, just to be consistent, that the velocity hasn't changed, that this wooden block has exactly the same velocity in each one of the experiments. And that's why it takes time for it to get to the finish line. I mean, it's taking more time on this side. I mean, we're moving the impact point in this direction, completely consistent with the fact that it's got to travel more distance, not that it's going any faster or any slower. So it's going the same speed no matter what's on the other side. And the other side's the one getting heavier, so it's changed its speed, and the speed is completely consistent with it being 1/2 the mass being the decider. That half the mass, twice the mass, half the velocity. That's what's demonstrated here. Alright, so that should be enough of a video. I guess I'll associate it with this snarky comment by rude person. We know it's Farley the troll. Yeah, here it is. Whoops. Refreshed it. Okay. So here's another one doing this basement. Was living in somebody else's basement, making a mess of high school physics and plotting the demise of life now constitutes self-actualized. And what constitutes it for you? Total obsession with me. You're just obsessed. Yeah, that's your great accomplishment in life, is your negative obsession. Oh, because your little feelings got hurt somewhere. This is why some people don't support the welfare state. God damn 60-year-old man-child. Again, whatever. This has nothing to do with anything, of course. It's invading my, my privacy. And it's probably against the law. Like say if somebody has a disability where they're in a wheelchair, it's probably against the law for you to say things like, well, why don't you just stand up, fucker? Why don't you just stand up, fucker? You're probably going to you're probably in big trouble if you do that, if you harass somebody in a wheelchair. And it's the same is true with people with other disabilities. And because somebody has a mental disability, doesn't give you a right to mock them this way. So I'm just saying the Americans with Disabilities Act does sort of protect people from this kind of harassment. So I'm just saying, just add to your liabilities, Dave. Farley. Fartley. Because they're real liabilities. You're really setting yourself up for a fall. Because it's just so gratuitously unnecessary. You can't make a good physics argument, and you're demonstrating it by this. You're basically saying, I don't have any evidence, I don't have any reasoning. All I can do is play word games and mocking games. And that's all you've got. So you're just kind of proving that your side doesn't have any evidence, and you don't care about evidence. You don't care about science, and you don't care about the truth. You're screaming all of that stuff loud and clear to anybody listening to this video, right? I mean, anybody who's smart isn't going to be impressed by that mush you typed. It's not going to work. Yeah, it's not going to have the effect you're hoping for. Now, stupid people, it might work because they just love a good joke. Hey. All right, so we'll remove that one. So here, he okay, I will spell it out for you. All the undergraduate world, all any undergraduate would need it to do is to pull the spring to the same length and double the mass of an object. The velocity would either scale according to KE or not. Well, I've already shown that is the point. I've essentially shown it again. Well, who can argue from any other position? They can't produce different energies. The same spring compression can't produce different energies. It just can't do it. All right. The velocity would either scale according to KE or not. Millions of physicists have missed this Nobel Prize winning experiment. I'm just saying that obviously you could argue that millions of physicists believe in entanglement, and there's no good evidence that's a reality. No good evidence. They believe in relativity, and there's no real good evidence there's any such thing called a time dimension, that the three physical dimensions have rules, and there's no room for a fourth dimension anywhere. So there's lots of reasoning to point out why physicists are full of shit. So if you think that's a great argument, well, wow, they're so smart and they're so perfect and they get everything so right that there's no way you could ever find a flaw in anything they ever say, when they can't even agree with each other. I mean, 1/3 is Copenhagen, 1/3 is, Feynman Mishy Mush, and 1/3 is many worlds. How do you explain that? Completely different descriptions of the physical reality. Anyway. Spend that $2,000. So let's see, just understand that I was willing to bet quite a bit of money on me being right and them being wrong, and then we'd pay to have the experiment done well. So remember, that's what I made the video stating, is it'd be nice to be able to get this experiment done really well so nobody can argue with it. And, get it over with, decisive, one way or the other. Let's measure the energy of the trains. Let's put a little generator on their wheels and measure the energy and see that they'll light the same light bulbs, demonstrating that they can't have different amounts of energy. So that would be the financing scheme, but none of you put up any money for the bet. Even though I'm giving you 2-to-1 odds, you still wouldn't put up any money, because that's how much no confidence you have in your real physics. Okay, and do the same experiment. If you prove velocity goes as mv and not mv squared, then you can collect your $1 million and move out of the basement. See, none of that's going to happen, because you'll just deny it again, right? You'll just come up with some other catch-22, some other bullshit evasion, some other loophole to escape what the evidence says. So, I don't know. None of that's going to happen, because you're clearly religious kooks. Okay? You're not going to give up. Even if I prove the Holy Ghost molested children and, was an alcoholic and, all this kind of, and shouldn't be in heaven, it won't matter. You won't take him out of heaven. You won't suggest to God that, well, the Holy Ghost is a lot guiltier than Eve, so, throw him in hell where he belongs. Surely you have enough confidence in your theory to do that. So again, I have done that. So, I mean, again, you're saying there's a lack of evidence on, demonstrating my side. I've pointed out, well, the Professor Lewin was pretty good evidence. This little block thing is pretty good evidence. So you're saying you want better evidence. I'm saying, well, let's finance better evidence. But you have to have some willingness, okay, to invest in your physics. If you're so sure you're right, then why aren't you putting up money to challenge mine? Okay, if you're not willing to do the experiment, clearly I'm willing to finance having the experiment done. That's the whole point, is to do it well. Why should I do it in my, like I said, you say I live in a basement and I have all kinds of issues. Why are you saying I should be the physics experiment guy? Why should I do physics experiments? Shouldn't people who have a machine shop in their basement do them? Shouldn't we just ask the college, the place full of undergraduate students? I'm sure they can suggest something to the professor. Let's do an experiment, professor. We have that air tracky thing. Why don't we use it for something? We spent $15,000 for this piece of shit that nobody uses for anything. Why don't we use it for something? Yeah, that would make sense. They already have the equipment. They already have... so why should somebody who doesn't have it try to manufacture it in their basement? I mean, you're just such a hypocrite. Oh, amazing. And collect your Nobel Prize and then shut up and move on to something else. Well, I won't be shutting up. And the something else is the same truth I've been arguing since, for 40 years, that you are not even close to. You're living in a little fake delusional world full of mush, and you don't even have the guts to articulate it. You don't even have the guts to argue what you do believe in, which is, I don't think anything, right? You believe in eating hamburgers. That's about it. That's the extent of your place here on Earth, is to basically be, the perfect real representation of Homer Simpson. You really don't have much of any other ambition, right? You're just kind of an evil Homer Simpson. Nothing else to you. All right. I mean, look at this fool. Oh, that's a brilliant comment. Gee, like nobody could figure out how to type that on a video. Impressive. So we'll leave this little piece of crap here for a while first, just for fun. All right, so this is the JPG Richie. I've shown that your questions can get answers in relatively short order. They're absolutely shit answers, frankly, but whatever. I mean, I can get answers on Quora. Are any of the answers reasonable? Do any of them have anything to do with the subjects? No. Not even close, really. I mean, not even close, really, to being on the subject, to being anything close to what you would call an answer. Ask a simple question, get a bunch of crap. That's all I got. If you want to compose 3 new questions, I'll compose one question, I suppose, with multiple choices. Which evasion are you going to use? If I prove this, what evasion will you use to escape that as evidence? So if I prove the 2 trains have exactly the same amount of energy, what's your evasion going to be? Can we find out what your evasion is going to be ahead of time? Because it will be an evasion, right? Perhaps focusing on the momentum. I mean, what experiment will convince them, I guess, suppose, is the argument, right? I mean, do I actually have to prove that if there's a car wreck between a 60 mile an hour and a 30 mile an hour car, that the total differential is 30 miles an hour, right? And no, well, it's 90, I guess, if you add up both their contributions. And it just doesn't, there's none of this 4 times as much energy crap. The 60 mile an hour car does not move 4 times more pieces of matter. Just as when I throw the light thing into gravity, because it goes 4 times higher doesn't mean it's going to hit the ground with 4 times the energy. That's just nonsense. All right. Focusing on the momentum is energy claim. I'll be happy to pass them on. Just keep the loopholes in mind. Yeah, well, the loopholes are endless, it seems. They will be. But regardless, fine. I mean, it's to what point does it become no point if every premise is going to be changed by them to suit the circumstance? So again, I thought I took all the loopholes out of the one question, right? The space one. I forgot to put the word space in it. So then Piro used it as a way to escape. I mean, it's, those questions are still valid and still waiting for a reasoned answer. And they haven't gotten one. All right. But anyway, enough. Okay. So, enough of a video. And till the next time and such. So anyway, I did think the video was probably pretty good in terms of being able to use it. So again, you can kind of see that it sort of illustrates the answer. It's verification of what Lewin did. Now, yeah, it's still missing the magical experiment where we tie the rubber band to a brick wall and stretch it and somehow magically get more energy. So we don't have that one yet, but we're getting closer and closer, and I'm just saying, how can anybody logically say the answer is going to be any different? It's going to be the same answer. The building's not going to move, but the block is still just going to do its side of the equation. It's still just going to go the same speed. It's still only getting its half of the momentum, and the building is dealing with the other half. The building's doing something. It's just not something you can see. You're not seeing the energy the building experiences. All right, that's enough said. No. So till the next time and such. This has been the DraftScience video presentation with lines in it and everything.